The Wasp in a Wig, a suppressed episode of Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There, by Lewis Carroll. And she was just going to spring over when she heard a deep sigh, which seemed to come from the wood behind her. There's somebody very unhappy there, she thought, looking anxiously back to see what was the matter. Something like a very old man, only that his face was more like a wasp, was sitting on the ground, leaning against a tree, all huddled up together, and shivering as if he were very cold. I don't think I can be of any use to him, was Alice's first thought, as she turned to spring over the brook. But I think I'll just ask him what's the matter, she added, checking herself on the very edge. If I once jump over, everything will change, and then I can't help him. So she went back to the wasp, rather unwillingly, for she was very anxious to be a queen. Oh, my old bones, he was grumbling as Alice came up to him. It's rheumatism, I should think, Alice said to herself, as she stooped over him, and said very kindly, I hope you're not in much pain. The wasp only shook his shoulders, and returned his head away. Ah, dearie me, he said to himself. Can I do anything for you? Alice went on. Aren't you rather cold here? How you go on, the wasp said in a peevish tone. Worrity, there never was such a child. Alice felt rather offended at this answer, and was very nearly walking on and leaving him. But she thought to herself, perhaps it's only pain that makes him so cross. So she tried once more. Won't you let me help you round the other side? You'll be out of the cold wind there. The wasp took her arm and let her help him round the tree, but when he got settled down again, he only said, as before, Worrity, can't you leave a body alone? Would you like me to read to you a bit of this? Alice went on, as she picked up a newspaper which had been lying at his feet. You may read it if you mind to, said the wasp rather sulkily. Nobody's hindering you that I know of. So Alice sat back down by him and spread out the paper on her knees and began. Latest news. The exploring party has made another tour in the pantry and have found 5 new lumps of white sugar, large and in fine condition. In coming back, any brown sugar? The wasp interrupted. Alice hastily ran her eye down the paper and said, No, it says nothing about brown. No brown sugar, grumbled the wasp. A nice exploring party. In coming back, Alice went on reading, they found a lake of treacle. The banks of lakes were blue and white, and looked like china. While tasting the treacle, they had a sad accident. 2 of their party were engulfed. What? The wasp asked in a very cross voice. Engulfed, Alice repeated, dividing the word into syllables. There's no such word in the language, said the wasp. It's in the newspaper, though, Alice said, a little timidly. Let it stop there, said the wasp, fretfully turning away his head. Alice put down the newspaper. I'm afraid you're not well, she said in a soothing tone. Can't I do anything for you? It's all along of the wig, the wasp said in a much gentler voice. Along of the wig? Alice repeated, quite pleased to find that he was recovering his temper. You'd be cross, too, if you'd a wig like mine, the wasp went on. They jokes at one, and they worrits one, and then I gets cross, and I gets cold, and I gets under a tree, and I gets a yellow handkerchief, and I ties up my face, as at the present. Alice looked pityingly at him. Tying up the face is very good for a toothache, she said. And it's very good for the conceit, added the wasp. Alice didn't catch the word exactly. Is that a kind of toothache? She asked. The wasp considered a little. Well, no, he said. It's when you hold up your head so, without bending your neck. Oh, you mean a stiff neck, said Alice. The wasp said, That's a new-fangled name. They call it conceit in my time. Conceit isn't a disease at all, Alice remarked. It is, though, said the wasp. Wait till you have it, and then you'll know. And when you catches it, just try tying a yellow handkerchief round your face. It'll cure you in no time. He untied the handkerchief as he spoke, and Alice looked at his wig in great surprise. It was bright yellow like a handkerchief, and all tangled and tumbled about like the heap of seaweed. "You could make your wig much neater," she said, "if only you had a comb." "Why, you're a bee, aren't you?" the wasp said, looking at her with much more interest. "And you've got a comb? Much honey?" "It isn't that kind," Alice hastily explained. "It's to comb hair with. Your wig's so very rough, you know." "I'll tell you how I came to wear it," the wasp said. "When I was young, you know, my ringlets used to wave." A curious idea came into Alice's head. Almost everyone she had met had repeated poetry to her, and she thought she would try if the wasp could do it too. "Would you mind saying it in rhyme?" she asked very politely. "It ain't what I'm used to," said the wasp. "However, I'll try. Wait a bit." He was silent for a few moments, and then began again. "When I was young, my ringlets waved and curled and kinkled on my head, and when they said, 'You should be shaved and wear a yellow wig instead.' But when I followed their advice, and they had noticed the effect, they said I did not look so nice as they had ventured to expect. They said it did not fit, and so it made me look extremely plain. But what was I to do, you know? My ringlets would not grow again. So now I am old and gray, and all my hair's nearly gone. They take my wig from me and say, 'How can you put such rubbish on?' And still, whenever I appear, they hoot at me and call me pig. And that is why they do it, dear, because I wear a yellow wig." "I'm very sorry for you," Alice said heartily. "And I think if your wig fitted a little better, they wouldn't tease you quite so much." "Your wig fits very well," the wasp murmured, looking at her with an expression of admiration. "It's the shape of your head as it does. Your jaws ain't well shaped, though. I should think you couldn't quite bite very well." Alice began a little scream of laughter, which she turned into a cough as well as she could. At last she managed to say gravely, "I can bite anything I want." "Not with a mouth as small as that," the wasp persisted. "If you was a-fighting now, could you get a hold of the other one by the back of the neck?" "I'm afraid not," said Alice. "Well, that's because your jaws are too short," the wasp went on. "But the top of your head is nice and round." He took off his wig as he spoke, and stretched out one claw toward Alice, as if she wished to do the same for her, but she kept out of reach, and would not take the hint. So he went on with his criticisms. "Then your eyes, they're much too in front, no doubt. One would have done as well as two, if one must have them so close." Alice did not like having so many personal remarks made on her, and as the wasp had quite recovered his spirits and was getting very talkative, she thought she might safely leave him. "I think I must be going now," she said. "Goodbye." "Goodbye and thank ye," said the wasp, and Alice tripped down the hill again, quite pleased that she had gone back and given a few minutes to making the poor old creature comfortable.